If I'm hiring somebody that's half my skill set, that doesn't seem to work out. If I'm hiring somebody in marketing that's half my skill set, that's not going to work out. I want to hire somebody with 5 times my skill set, right? So as you're building things out, you have to make sure you're hiring people that have, better skill than you do in whatever you're hiring them to do.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Leverage with Virtudesk. And today we've got Mike Bernier with Realty Group out in, I think you guys are in 2 main locations right now, Minnesota and Florida.
We're just getting started. Actually, I'm in Florida right now, just getting set up with their first office. I've been here for a month. It's rough when you're from Minnesota and it's like negative 35 and you get sent to Florida where it's 80 and beautiful. Rough.
How can you do that? Dude, I'm glad you could do it though.
It's a Norwegian in me. That's what it is. I'm a Norseman.
Dude, that sucks. How did Long get stuck in Minnesota and you got to go to Florida?
Well, next year he's going to take off for Arizona and get one started there. So I took the first shift. Next year he gets Arizona.
Oh, that makes sense. Well, he already owns in Arizona. So
Correct.
All right. So now you guys are expanding and you've got this amazing virtual staff. We're always competing. Right? I remember you were like at 13 and I was at 10 and then I got to 14, but you guys went to 17. Yep. And then I got to 17 and you guys, dude, we're at 20. So how many do you have now?
I think the last I counted was 23 or 24. So we're up there.
Damn. All right. Where do you hire your virtual assistants?
I'll tell you, we've done it a couple different ways. We've done it through third party. We've done it direct. We've done it by referral. We've done it just whatever way you can. And for I think what happens is when you get really good at working with VAs, you can kind of recognize when you actually do the interviews, whether it's coming from a third party or coming direct, you kind of recognize right away who you're talking to and what their skill sets are and whether or not they're going to be a fit. The first couple of times of hiring a VA, we went a very bad direction. We just got in front of somebody. They said, I've done X, Y, and Z in my career as a VA for real estate agents. We said, sounds good. Hire them. Didn't work out, So then we started going third party. We seemed to have some better success there because the third party was able to line us up with candidates that would work probably a little bit better. But whether you're going third party or direct, I think once you start really developing a skill set in hiring, the right questions to ask, and by their answers, you start picking up on whether or not they're going to be good for you.
Well, I think you're to the point where you already know who you need to hire next for that vacancy that you have for the brokerage, right? Yep. Brokerage and team. It's a little different because now I'm where you're at. I'm like, oh, well, I know who I need, right? Mm-hmm. I'll just go out and get it.
And you probably also know too that, not all VAs are created equal, right? Some people have really good, strong admin strengths. Some people are really good in, on the phone and in the sales side of it. So it depends. Some people are great with the marketing side of it. So it really kind of depends what their skill sets are, so you're not just going to hire a VA that's going to be a one size fits all. You've got to know what you're looking for, what skill set they need. And once you know that, it's easier to find the right candidate.
All right, let's talk about skill set, but Mark jumped in. Mark, meet Mike. Mike, meet Mark.
Hey, Mark.
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Mike, good. Mark's on the team over here. He's the guy that closed the PPC leads for like 10.5 million and all Malibu. Nice. So,
dude, are you at a Chipotle?
Very few people know what this is, but you can always tell a Chipotle fan when they can recognize my background.
The wall, yeah.
Oh, dude, I thought it was a cafe.
No, I'm a huge Chipotle fan.
Yeah, so everybody that knows me, I eat at Chipotle every single day. If it's not a holiday where they're closed, I'm there once a day. So
it's so good, dude.
It is.
Dude, now I'm hungry. All right, Mike, in regards to hiring, I think you and I are to the point where anytime we're going to hire, I've already asked my VA team to say, okay, guys, this is who we're hiring. Let's get the tasks and duties. I need an outline of what the job is going to be, processes, systems, go. We have the blessing to be able to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Because we know if you're just starting off with VA number 1, 2, 3, under 5, what are we looking to do when we're interviewing so that we can get this process down?
Well, I think what you just identified is really the pain point that most small business owner, somebody that's going from like self-employment to small business or sort of in that realm, like a solo agent or really small business going into actually trying to run their business like a business. when you're first transitioning in there and you're thinking about leveraging, you're thinking about hiring, you're thinking about, moving up, or kind of moving up in the position where you're going to take some higher level stuff and you're going to hire out and leverage everything else. The hard part is you got to wear all the hats at first. Like, you got to do the hiring, the training. You got to help really put together what those SOPs are, standard operating procedures. Like, you're involved in all that. So if you're heavy in production and that's where you're making your money, now you got to take a back step and think, well, now I've got to try to help really hire, train, create processes, create systems. That's where it gets to be difficult when you're first starting. And I've seen a lot of drop off there. People think it's easier just to go back to do what they were doing. You know, as a solo agent or a very small team, I'm just going to stick here because it's comfortable. I know it. I understand it. If I try to move up, if I really try to scale up, that's going to be a lot of operational stuff I have to be involved with, unless, of course, you have a partner that's going to help you on the ops side. So, I think a lot of people struggle with that, because to move up means you're probably going to step back a little bit in production and step back in where you're focusing, and you're going to focus on that operational stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. So can you tell me about creating these processes if it's just you? Because when you guys were just starting off, who was it? Did you leave it to Long, or did that fall on you?
No, I would have left it to Long. My God, we wouldn't even have a building standing anymore. You kidding me?
He'd be out golfing.
Right, he'd be out golfing.
I'll be right back.
He'd be trying to figure out who he could hire to do exactly what we need to do. But so honestly, when it first started out, you have to kind of figure out, when you're running a team or brokerage, you have to figure out all the different departments, if you want to call it that, that you're going to need to create to make it grow. So for us, for example, we've got departments built around risk management for agents. We have departments built around agent services and sort of concierge things that agents need. We have departments built around marketing. We have departments built around lead generation, PR and branding, you name it. We've got people that do a lot of things, even HR. We're at a point now we even have HR. So you can't do that. You don't actually have a need for that when it's, you and a couple others. But as you start to grow, those needs become more prevalent, like they become more obvious. So you almost have to start building the departments out in concept, and maybe your first one, it's identifying priorities. Maybe the first one that you identify, that's your most important priority. That's where you focus first. And that's where you're going to start creating the processes. And, one of the general rules of thumb is, when you are going to start bringing people onto your team, whether it's, staff or management or partners, you always want to try to find people that are exceptionally more talented in that department than you are. That's really kind of the winning strategy. Like, if I'm hiring somebody that's half my skill set, that doesn't seem to work out. If I'm hiring somebody in marketing that's half my skill set, that's not going to work out. I want to hire somebody with 5 times my skill set, right? So as you're building things out, you have to make sure you're hiring people that have, better skill than you do in whatever you're hiring them to do.
Got it. All right. So when you're doing that, do you first outline the departments and be like, okay, this is where we'd like to grow, right? I would assume you've got like marketing, right? Then you've got a head admin, right? And then because you're running a brokerage / team, one of those has to be recruiting, right? Well,
exactly.
Is that where you started, or where did you really start? Like, which one were your first 2, 3, 4?
For us, and a lot of people can probably relate to this, when you bootstrap your operation, you self-fund everything. You're not taking, investor money or private equity. You're basically saying, I'm going to grow a business. I'm going to fund it through my own production or through our own growth of business, revenue that we're making. You almost have to lead with revenue. You can't lead with debt, right? So recruiting is probably one of the first things you got to really focus on. I need production in here to bring some revenue in, so I can then allocate that revenue to grow the business.
That makes sense, man. And I don't think that people look at hiring VAs with that lens. They're like, okay, let's see where I can apply a virtual assistant first to be able to bring me more money. And that's usually, would you say that's usually your strength or your weakness first?
I think what people do is they tend to lead with cost versus revenue. So they're thinking, man, I'm overwhelmed. I've got all these tasks I have to do. I mean, even me, I've got a couple people, VAs that are in file auditing. Like, for us, we'll close 5,500 units this year. That's a lot of files. And our state legislator is going to make sure that those things, state regulator is going to make sure that, we're going to be following all the rules and laws and statutes. I got to have people that are making sure those files are compliant. I've got three full-time VAs. That's all they do all day long. Now, do I need those VAs? Absolutely. But guess what? That's a cost. At very best, it's defense. It's not offense. It's defense. It's keeping me from, lawsuits and other problems. But ultimately, like I'm saying, if I'm leading with that, if that's where I start, then how am I going to pay for them? It's going to come directly out of my pocket, right? I'm rather going to lead with revenue. So one of the first places that you want to really look at adding is help in the recruiting department. And this is where it becomes a very difficult balance, because what are you recruiting to? I talk to a lot of people that talk about recruiting, but what are you recruiting to? Are you recruiting to your culture? Are you recruiting to what your offering is, what your value prop is? Are you recruiting to some sort of commission structure? What exactly are you recruiting to? And if you haven't really built anything out yet, it's difficult to say I'm recruiting to X, Y, or Z, right? So you have to have something in place that's going to be attractive enough that someone wants to join you. That's what you're recruiting to. And you know what, for us, what we did very early on, before we had a lot of tools that we could really offer, a lot of value prop, the thing that we had is we had really solid agent education. We had personal brands. We were really recruiting to ourselves. We're both Long and myself were highly productive agents in our market. So, when we're recruiting, it was just kind of selling us. Sit down with Long or Mike, have a conversation, see how we can help your business. So we would bring people over. And that's the only thing we really had to offer at the time, was a good commission structure, like a very affordable commission structure, and access to us. That's all we had to start with. But sure enough, we grew 45 agents in our first year with nothing more than that to offer. So bottom line is, you have to start leading with revenue, or you can start creating debt that you got to make up for later. It's one or the other.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot. And who are you recruiting to? Such a great question, because then you can start creating that, right? That's interesting, dude. I like that.
Recruiting kind of has to be intentional, right? I mean, it's you have the machine gun spray where you could just call everybody and say, have you thought about joining XYZ, whatever your brokerage or team is? Have you thought about, making a switch? How happy are you with your brokerage? You could do all of that. And you know what? It's a numbers game. You call enough people, someone's going to say, yeah, I'm not really happy where I'm at. I'll listen to what you have to say. But if you're really good at segmenting the agent population and putting people into different buckets and having different messages or different value prop or things that are more relevant to that group, now it gives you something to recruit to that's more tangible with higher conversion.
Who are your VA heads right now? Like the department heads? Like what are they?
Good question. Good question, because I think you're probably going to want to talk about, when you're hiring VAs, like how do you train? If you hire 20 VAs, are you independently and, training each one yourself? And the answer is no. Like anything else, you're going to build management within pods, right? I mean, if I mentioned file auditing, I've got a head file auditor that when we bring somebody else in, she's going to end up training the others under our processes. You know why? Because she's better than I am. Again, I don't have the skill set she does. She can whip through those files, audit them, catch what's wrong, flip, get it back to the agent, get responses back faster than I can. She's more skilled there than I am, right? So she's going to be managing that. And of course, all we're looking for then is quality control. So you have to inspect what you expect, right? So we're putting management in place, and we'll spot check a few things here or there. And every time we have, it's been great. Like we've had no complaints. For the management that we have spot checked that we were not happy with, we realize that's probably not the direction we want to go, and we'll replace it. Make sense?
Yep, totally makes sense, man. All right. So then when we're looking at hiring, are you already looking to hire from the very beginning someone that has enough talent as a VA to be able to say, you know what, this person could be the head of the department, whatever department we have? Is that what you're hiring to at the very beginning?
In the very beginning, that's what we're looking for. But keep in mind, it takes some time to find that and develop it. And sometimes we'll hire somebody that's not quite perfect just to cut our teeth and get processes rolling. Sometimes we'll start building out those workflows and SOPs. And, let's say you're with a B player, not an A+ player, not your, top of the line. Even if we replace the B player later, now we have processes that we can already have and say, we're going to plug you right into, sometimes it takes months to find the right person.
All right. I like that. There's a great question. It says, and then we'll head into, I want to know what departments you've got. It says, hey, Mike, did you get a lot of VAs from referrals? Is it an effective method to build your team that way? Or what do you think?
We got a few. I mean, we have had a few. We've had other people, across the country. They're like, hey, I've been working with this VA. They're looking to move on because X, Y, or Z, or we're scaling down, or we're doing something different. But this person's been a great VA. You should work with them. So we put feelers out there before. we've had some luck with that. But ultimately, I have confidence in our ability to interview well. And I'll give you an example. I interviewed somebody on the sales side not that long ago, maybe a year ago, and we're talking about circle prospecting, and we're talking about, I think it was calling expireds. And I was listening to the VA talk about how they have experience in this. Right off the bat, it sounded good. Like, yeah, you've done circle prospecting, you've done expired calls, you've set appointments. They're saying the right words until I start digging in granular. I started asking really specific questions that they couldn't answer. And that's when I knew that, okay, this is not probably the right one. So I built confidence over time to know I got to dig really deep to see what their competence level is, as well as their confidence level. Because if you have somebody in the VA, a VA that's not competent or confident, that's going to be a problem. They need to be confident and they need to be competent. They need to have the skill set.
Mike, what are some of those questions for those who want to know, the diving deeper questions that, extra qualify?
So for example, if I'm recruiting, if I was going to be asking something about recruiting, I'd be asking what softwares they've worked with. So what recruiting software have you worked with? What CRMs? What recruiting? Because if they're telling me they have experience in recruiting, what recruiting trips have you used or what systems? If they don't have an answer to that, even if it's one I've never heard of, if they can tell me about it intelligently and talk about what it does, then I'm going to have more confidence.
So for example, like, let's just say for the sake of the conversation, if they said use RedX for circle prospecting.
Yep. So with RedX, and that's exactly the conversation I had. I said, well, what platform did you use for circle prospecting in Fizzbos? And they struggled to give me an answer. And then what they did is they actually said, I don't think it was RedX. I think it was LandVoice. I remember what they finally spit out. I started asking questions about it, features within RedX, how they access the platform. I just started asking those type of questions. And again, this was a year ago, so I don't remember exactly what my questions were, but it's those type of questions, right? Sure. What features does RedX offer? Like what did you enjoy from there?
That is such a great point, Mike, because when we're looking, so you and I, it's interesting, your organization versus our organization, although we have almost like the same amount of VAs, you're like primarily on building, team, running brokerage, right? That. And on my side, I'm all about content creation, running distribution, right?
Yep.
And so when you're saying digging deeper, dude, I do the same thing. I'm sitting down with a video editor and I'm like, okay, cool. Take me through it. You know what? Better yet, edit this video right now. Show me what you do. And then they either pop it open and they can edit like that, or they're like, my computer's too slow. And I'm like, I'm sorry. If your computer's too slow, you're not the right person for me.
Right fit. Exactly. Yeah. And you hit it on the head, Tristan. That's exactly what we're saying. They need to demonstrate their skill set, not just talk about it. And that's the questions and where we prompt them to do. And if they can't demonstrate it or they don't have the tools to, then they're probably not going to be the right candidate.
Right. Dude, great point. And this is why we typically like them trained or at least found through somebody like Virtudesk.
Yep.
So they like, hey guys, well, this is what we're looking for. We've trained them, and then so kind of like our stamp approval, right? But question for you, Mike, in regards to just departments that you have for your brokerage as a whole, Realty Group, how many agents do you guys have right now?
About 700.
700. All right. And then you've got the brokerage, and you're running a team as well within the brokerage, right?
Correct. Yep.
All right. So just break down the departments for me so I understand, I can visualize, and then tell me where the VAs fit in.
Sure. So, I'll give you an example of some of the departments. I mentioned compliance with file auditing. That's a big one, but also listing entry. So we offer our agents the ability to just turn a listing into us, and we do all the entry for them. We call it listing fast track. That we can you just give us a listing, we'll take care of the entry, we'll do it all. We also have what we call hands-free marketing. When they turn those listings into us, our VAs are creating 7 to 8 different marketing pieces on systems like Listings to Leads, Maxa design, Ylopo listing rocket ads, for example. So we're doing all this stuff for our agents, and it's not us. When I say us doing it, that's our VAs doing it, right? We've got VAs that are part of our call center. When a sign call happens in our brokerage, that sign call gets picked up by our call center, because if it's a buyer wanting to get a hold of an agent, we're doing a live connect to that listing agent. And we know why, because guess what? Listing agents rarely answer the phone. You get a phone call that you don't recognize the number, that thing's going to voicemail 9 times out of 10. We know that. We've actually interceded that and took control of it and created our own internal call center. We do the same thing with our ISAs. with our lead generation program. So we've got 2 ISAs that comb through 55,000 leads that we have in our team database that are doing nothing but responding to behavioral alerts through systems like MyLocal. So when somebody's in there, and they've looked at a listing now 3 times, or they've been inactive and now after 3 months they're active again, that's triggering our VAs to get a hold of somebody, right? Go ahead.
Your ISAs, are they located in the Philippines or no?
Ours are, yes. Correct.
Okay. And so who trains them? Because the number one limiting belief that I hear about VAs that are ISAs in the Philippines is that, number one, they have an accent. Number two, there's no way that they can convert online leads.
Well, I'll tell you. So we set about 65 to 75 appointments a week for those VAs. So we're doing pretty well with it, but we're probably making 500 phone calls a day, setting 65 to 75. Now, when I say we're not having that many conversations. We're running them through Mojo. We're getting as many people on the phone as we can, but we're setting a solid 65 to 75 appointments a week.
Damn, man.
With Philippine VA.
Do you have a department head for ISAs, like a lead coordinator?
Yep. And the lead coordinator for us is a local domestic guy. He's our head. He started as an ISA with us. He's converted so much and he's super good at what he does. So he's sort of the one running that team, but he's got 2 VAs now. We'll probably add a 3rd one this summer as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, Mark, it's like Jake, and then we've got the ISAs, right? Same thing, buddy. Same thing.
We have a question here from Richard. Do you charge for these various services, marketing, etc.?
I love that you're asking that. So for our model, we're 100% flat fee model. So what we do, and we're just kind of putting this in place now, what we're doing for the agents, what I mentioned with those, the hands-free marketing with their listings, that is free. But what we're finding is agents, there's a lot of things that they would like done for them. We can show them all day long. If you come over here and put all of your contacts into Follow Up Boss, that's a CRM we pay for our agents. We can show them how to do it. But you'd be amazed how many people say, can you just do it for me? Right? So there's probably 10 or 15 things, from marketing to admin work to TC to everything else you can think of, that we're going to bring on a staff of VAs under us that we farm out for a higher price to our agents, because to the agent, they might pay $50 an hour for 3 hours and they're not hiring a full-time person. They don't want to manage or hire anybody. They just want a project done. That's where we're heading with it ourselves.
I love that, man. I love that. All right. You've got an ISA department. You've got quality control right through HR. And you also have your VAs that are recruiting for you. So take me through that, because I'm always impressed with that, because I don't have that yet. So I'm always I don't have that.
I'm telling you. So again, you have to be careful in recruiting that it's not just some sort of machine gun spray. It's got to be more of a sniper approach to work effectively, I think. So, in other words, we're going to segment our group of agents. In our market, we've got about 23,000 agents in the whole state. We've got 7 locations, 700 agents, so we probably still got some room to grow even in our own state. But what we do is we know that based on why people move brokerages, based on geography. Believe it or not, a lot of agents still want to be close enough to an office that if they want to stop in for a client meeting or to drop off a check or to have a closing in the office, they want someplace they can go. Even post-pandemic, we still see quite a bit of that here. That's number one. Number two, we have to look at production. The way that a recruiting conversation is going to go with somebody that's doing 0 to call it 10 deals a year is very different than a conversation that's going to go possibly with somebody doing 30, 40, 50 transactions a year. It's a different conversation, different kind of agent. So we're breaking down the list, and we've got basically 2 or 3 different, if you want to call them scripts, that we use based on who we're talking to. Sometimes we're calling just to set up a networking meeting. My partner Long does 90% of the meetings he does himself. That's his skill set. So we set him up for the actual recruiting meeting. And a lot of times it's networking. They're getting together for coffee, they're getting together for lunch, whatever it is. But keep in mind, in order to build your recruiting, again, why it's not just a machine gun spray, we've spent so much time building our personal brands in our marketplace. That way, when the VA calls and they say, by the way, do you know Long Doan? Yeah, I know Long. He would love to get together with some agents for lunch, just for networking, which we convert a lot of those networking meetings to recruiting meetings, by the way. But,
dude, I like that.
But had Long not built his personal brand, had I not built my personal brand, would anybody actually want to come in and just meet us for coffee? The answer is yes, but what type of agent, right? Somebody doing 6, 7 deals a year that's bored and has nothing to do and they want to get together for coffee, sure. Somebody doing 30, 40 deals a year, probably not. So it limits really who you're going to be successful with.
Dude, so I have a question on that. This is a personal question here. If you guys are in the process of growing the brand always, right?
Yep.
Do you have a VA that's running the content you're creating and blasting it out there through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, everywhere else? Or what's that look like?
We did. We just got really stupid about it, and we ended up picking up a full-fledged a marketing VP that's worked for large Fortune 500s and private advertising firms. We brought that in-house. So we brought, because marketing the way we do it now, it's a huge operation, and there's some VAs that help with that. Don't get me wrong, but we have it directed now with different. I mean, we got videography in-house.
You know what?
Yeah,
Mike, I'm gonna send you. Are you familiar with Mr. Beast?
I'm not.
So the biggest YouTuber on the planet. He's 23 years old, started YouTubing at 11. He makes millions of dollars a month and puts it all back into content creation.
Nice.
I'm going to send you a list of who he's hiring.
Yep.
So you can kind of see where we need to go. You'll freaking love that, bro.
Love that. Yep.
Question here from Vivian. Great question. Do you have any roadmap that lists all of the roles that a VA should perform that you could share or at least talk about?
Yeah, so I don't have an exact roadmap. I mean, I've got an org chart somewhere that shows all the departments and who's in it, but it'd be difficult to see which is VA and which is not. But so where we found VAs useful, again, in recruiting, right? And before I get off recruiting, I want to kind of finish that, then I'll jump to the question. When it comes to recruiting, what we're doing is we're doing a couple different prong approach. Yes, we're building our personal brands. We're building something to recruit to. Like, we got to have a value proposition and offering for people. We have to have leave behinds and content that people can see. You can look at our webpage, and it's a version 1.0. We're improving it now, but joinrg.com. You can see what we're driving people to. That's a full website, not a web page, a full website on our brokerage, just our recruiting base. So you have to have something to recruit to. What we do is we have our VA that's reaching out and either setting up a recruiting meeting or a networking meeting with each person. And not everybody that answers the phone wants to do it, but you'd be surprised when you put them on follow-up. This is the other thing about VAs and recruiting. They got to be able to use the CRM to know who they've called, who they've talked to, and who they have to follow up with. And they have to be able to use the software. We use right now a company, I can never even say the name right, but it's Realtix, I believe is the way you say it. We use Breakthrough Broker. We've used Market View Broker. We've combined a few things, but right now we're using Realtix. And they got to be able to pull reports, because guess what? People move into markets, out of markets, into neighborhoods, out of neighborhoods. So as we're getting new lists every month of who we're supposed to be calling, that changes. Our VAs handle that for us. They're making the calls, they're setting the appointments. And on top of setting the appointments, they're making sure that Long has the calendar invite, and they're making sure to confirm that appointment, not once, but more than one time before the appointment. The worst thing in the world is to show up at like a Caribou Coffee and the agent ghosts you. But if they're getting, notifications and calls like an hour before the meeting, they're actually getting a phone call, not even an email or text, a phone call. Hey, just a reminder, Long's will be at Caribou. Do you still have the address? Do you need help with that? That way they're feeling more compelled to show up. And if they're not good, they'll tell you straight out, I got to cancel, right?
Dude,
so
I love that. That is really good. I like that a lot.
Yep. And it gives some legitimacy to it as well. That way they feel like this is a legit meeting. The other thing we like to do is segment the meetings. If we're going to be doing physical meetings, I like to segment, which part of town to go into, because I don't want to go over here and then 2 hours later be over here, then 3 hours later be over there. We'll try to put all the appointments that we can get for that week in this area. So like on Monday, we're in the northeast quadrant of the city. Tuesday, we're in the southeast, and Wednesday, we're in the southwest. So we try to do as much as we can to pack them back to back. It's an old Michael Maher technique from 7L, if you remember, where as one meeting is leaving, the next one is showing up. So people are like, dang, everybody knows you. Like, you're having another meeting here. The server knows you. I mean, you seem like you own this place. It just adds an extra layer of credibility.
Dude, that's very true. Very true.
Yep.
Yeah, the third party validation is important.
Definitely is. So, then what happens after the meeting, we're putting them into separate buckets based on how that meeting went and what the response is. So when I say separate buckets, what I'm talking about is, you have people that are telling you that, yep, I want to join. I'll join within a week. As soon as they say they're going to join and, it's going to be a week, 10 days, whatever it is, we're going to move them over to our onboarding team. And we're going to take them through a pre-onboarding process, an onboarding process, and that moves over there. Okay. if they say I'm interested, but not yet, I've got a couple deals I have to close up or whatever their problem is, right? And this is a very important thing about recruiting. I think people miss the mark on this. It's not easy for an agent to move. Let's just call it what it is. It's not easy. You've got, your marketing that's already done. People know the brokerage or team you're with. You've probably got a deal or two pending or ready to close. It's hard to pick up and move. What we've done is we built, some systems around that so we can make it more easy for people to move. If we're their partner in that, we can remove some of the pain points and give some support behind them. They tend to move faster and easier. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you have like a concierge person in charge of helping them move?
Correct. Yep. So it goes to one of our departments, especially if it's going to be around moving files, or not moving files. But let's say you've got a listing that's sold and it's 45 days to closing. But what if the anxiety is if I move brokerages, what am I going to get paid by my old broker? Can I still work on it through my new broker? It's those type of things they have anxiety around. So we have our what we call our broker services, our risk management department. That's who takes that over and helps them out.
Dude, I love that. I just took notes on that. I'm going to show you something. I know we're a little over, but somebody asked, like, do we have a chart? And
Yep.
here's what I've got for me. What would you add just to the main heads here? I have 5 heads because remember that I'm more content oriented, social media, and then recruiting. What would you add here on this ball?
Let's see. Okay. So yeah, obviously you're pretty built out with what you do have. But okay, for example, these are all VAs or is there domestic employees too?
It's mixed, but I've got both in here.
Gotcha. So who's your head of operations? You have your director of operations right there, right? So there we go. So your director of operations is overseeing all these people, correct?
Yeah, overseeing the 5, and then each one of these is a head to each.
So what I'd be looking at doing is I'd probably looking at segment the operations and probably bringing a VP in too, bringing some support behind operations, because one person's managing all that. That looks like that could be pretty cumbersome as you begin to scale. So operations almost becomes a department itself.
Perfect. I like
that's
that,
one. And what about accounting? Where's that at? Finance.
That's outside. That's all here in-house.
Got it.
But you're right. Let's add that there. I love that. So tell me on your side, on accounting, do you mix that up with VAs as well or no?
We do. Yes, we do. And the other thing was to see on yours, risk management, right? So who's really taking care of risk management for you as well?
Perfect. Adding that.
Yep. Okay. So your question was on finance. So we've got, kind of a controller position, I guess we call it, management accounting manager. We've got people that are, commission checks, for example, are extremely cumbersome. They take 5 to 10 minutes to cut for a check. When you're cutting thousands of them a year, that's a full-time job for usually more than one person. So we've got VAs doing all the commission checks. We found that's been a very efficient way to do it.
Perfect, dude. Taking notes on that. See, Mike, this is why I love talking to you, bro.
I know I talk really fast, and people are like, "Can you just slow down so I can write some crap down?" But sorry about that.
Angeline's got a question. Mike, mention the website to review. What is that?
So I was saying the website that we have for recruiting. I can share the screen if you want to see it.
Yeah, dude, shoot.
All right, give me 1 second. Again, we have to have something to recruit to. We have a ton of stuff, but this is just a good example. As you see, this is an entire website. Each one, it has tabs for everything, right?
Love this.
My connection's a little slow. These pictures are not this blurry. I don't know why they're not loading very well. It's just slow. There it is. Videos, right? Location videos, our locations. You want to know about me and Long? Meet the owners. I'll pop myself up here. Hold on a second.
I love that.
That's not working well. Education. For some reason, the screen share is screwing it up. Education. So basically we're kind of recruiting to our culture and our value proposition. Like we got to have a place to drive people back. We have RGTV. That's our main YouTube channel. I mean, there's a ton of places we drive people back to. And I think that's important too, because the VAs, when they're in recruiting, like I said, after that meeting that takes place and transpires, and you have to figure out what it is to move people over, you also have to keep touching them in different ways. You want to make sure that they're getting, drip campaigns from you, text messages from you, all automated. You don't want to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And your VAs also have to be well trained and know when to bring you in. If there's a resistance point on a meeting that happened and you thought they might join, and you thought it was at least good enough for a follow-up, if that VA then is seeing a resistance point, they got to know to bring you in and say, hey, so-and-so, I think you need to call them back. I'm still involved with them. I can't get any farther. So you have to make sure that they're well trained as well to do that.
Dude, I love that. I love that.
So we're over time, Tristan, is what you're saying, huh?
Yep. But
right.
Thanks for jumping on, dude. I'll see you at the Wailopo event in a couple of weeks, which is crazy. Yep. I have to book my hotel. So
all right, buddy.
I'll see you there, buddy. Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.